Have you ever looked at someone, maybe it's a friend, a family member, or honestly, even a stranger, who's just constantly being lied to, disrespected, and broken down? And you ask yourself that classic, kind of judgmental question, why don't they just leave? I mean, from the outside looking in, it seems so incredibly simple, right? The door is literally right there. The solution is obvious. But what if the reality of actually walking through that door is vastly different from what you're seeing?
Welcome to this explainer on the invisible chains, the psychology of toxic attachment. To really bridge the empathy gap here, we can't look at this from the outside in. We have to experience it from the inside out. So I'm going to walk you through the science of this entirely from my perspective as a survivor. I want you to step into my shoes for a bit. Listen to my internal monologue. Let's discover exactly what it feels like when the person breaking you is the only person you believe can actually put you back together.
The absolute first thing you need to know about my experience is that my staying, it is not a sign of weakness. It's not a lack of willpower, and I can promise you it's certainly not because I enjoy being mistreated. It is pure psychology. What looks to you like a failure to act is actually this deeply complex psychological trap that's been carefully built in my mind. And once you understand the mechanics of this trap, you will never look at love or the people caught in these situations the same way again. Okay, let's really dive into this. At the very beginning, this relationship didn't feel toxic at all. It felt intense. It felt passionate, like this sweeping romance. But what I was actually experiencing was something much darker: intermittent reinforcement. Think of it literally like a slot machine. One day, my partner treats me like I'm the absolute center of the universe. I hit the jackpot. But the next day, they treat me like I am absolutely nothing. The rewards are totally inconsistent and entirely unpredictable.
And because of that unpredictability, my brain gets caught in this frantic, desperate loop. I start telling myself, well, if I just try a little harder, maybe I'll get the good version of them again. I'm no longer just living my life. I'm constantly working to earn back that initial high. And when that good version finally does return, even for a second, it feels like a massive emotional reward. My brain just floods with dopamine. It's a literal psychological high that I become completely desperate to maintain. The contrast between what we think love is and what I was actually experiencing is just massive. A healthy attachment is built on consistency, safety, steady trust. But my toxic attachment, it wasn't deepened by consistency, it was deepened by the unpredictability. The extreme highs and the devastating lows created this intense chemical roller coaster. I wasn't just falling in love, my brain was physically becoming addicted to the cycle itself.
Which brings us to the next phase, the slow erosion of self.
You know the old saying, if you throw a frog into boiling water, it jumps out? Well, looking at this timeline, you can see how incredibly slowly the heat was turned up on me. Day 1, maybe it's just a mildly disrespectful comment. I noticed it, sure, but I brushed it off because I remembered how amazing they were yesterday. By month 1, it's a broken promise. Month 3, a serious moment that leaves a deep pit in my stomach. But by year 1, the heat has been turned up so slowly that I find myself fully accepting behavior that the old me swore I would never, ever tolerate.
To actually survive this slow shift to my reality, my brain has to protect me from the cognitive dissonance, so it just starts generating these excuses on autopilot. I tell my friends, oh, they're just really stressed with work right now. I tell myself, they didn't mean it, they just have a temper. Or worst of all, I start taking the blame entirely. Well, it's my fault too, I really shouldn't have provoked them. I haven't consciously decided to lower my standards. My self-worth has just been quietly, systematically rewritten.
And that leads us to a really crucial concept: the trauma bond cycle.
Trauma bonding happens when the brain makes a completely devastating mistake. It links the person who's causing my immense psychological or emotional pain with the exact comfort and safety I need to heal from that pain. So the person who breaks me becomes the only person I want to run to for soothing. My brain literally conflates my survival with their affection. I am trapped in an exact, inescapable chemical loop. Step 1. They inflict pain, creating this immense emotional distress. Step 2, they offer a tiny crumb of comfort, maybe an apology, which my distressed brain just clings to like a life raft. Step 3, that sudden relief creates an intense, artificial deepening of our attachment. Step 4, the cycle repeats. And over time, this loop makes the bond unbelievably strong. It is a biological survival response, just masquerading as love.
So, this is exactly why your advice doesn't work on me. You can sit across from me at a coffee shop and give me the most rational, logical advice in the world. I can hear you deserve better 100 times from 100 different people, and logically, I might even agree with you. but I still go back. Because this bond isn't rational. It's a deeply ingrained chemical addiction. The emotional loop running in my nervous system is infinitely stronger than any logic you can offer.
And when I do try to summon the courage to leave, the silence is just filled with these terrifying internal echoes. I am paralyzed by these whispers. What if I never find someone else? What if everyone was right and this is truly the best I can get? What if all those times they blamed me were true? What if I'm actually the problem? The unknown of leaving suddenly feels far more dangerous and agonizing than the familiar pain of staying.
You see, leaving sounds simple until you're the one staring down the barrel of it. Walking away doesn't just mean I lose a toxic partner. It means I have to grieve the shared memories we built. I have to burn down the entire future I had imagined for us. And most devastatingly, I have to mourn the version of myself that existed in that relationship. I am literally dismantling my entire reality.
Because the longer I stay in this toxicity, the more my independent identity fades away. My entire world revolves around anticipating their moods, managing their anger, seeking their approval. My decisions, my emotions, my self-worth, they are all entirely tied to this one person. So when I look at the door, the most terrifying question of all appears. Who am I without them? At this point, leaving feels less like a breakup and more like an absolute loss of self. I mean, at least in the pain, I still know who I am.
Now let's move to our final realization: redefining real love.
To really understand my story, we have to look at my foundational blueprints. The most uncomfortable truth you need to understand about my experience, and the stories of so many others, is that I didn't stay because I loved too much. I stayed because somewhere along the way in my life, I internalized a deeply broken definition of love. Maybe it was from childhood, maybe past experiences, or maybe from simply never being modeled what healthy affection looks like. But my brain learned and accepted that love is supposed to hurt.
Because my brain was trained to associate love with chaos, confusion, and broken self-worth, I became totally conditioned to toxicity. So what actually happens when I finally encounter real, healthy love? When I meet someone who is calm, stable, and deeply respectful? Ironically, it feels completely wrong. It feels boring. It doesn't trigger that chemical spike of dopamine and adrenaline I'm so addicted to. Real love doesn't confuse you or break you. It feels peaceful. And for someone like me who was used to a war zone, that peace is incredibly uncomfortable until I deeply heal.
So, I want to leave you with a fundamental shift in perspective today. The next time you see someone trapped in these invisible chains, I challenge you to drop the judgment. Stop asking the external critical question of why don't they just leave? Instead, look a little deeper. Look at the psychology, the addiction, the conditioning, and ask the truly empathetic question, what happened to them that made this feel like love?